All right, action fans, like I promised, I like to keep my promises. I don't know about you. Demetrius Angelo here, Urban Action Showcase. As I promised, I'm bringing you the evolution of martial arts and cinema with the actual icons, the pioneers, the people who paved the path for those are on the way, for those who have come and for those who are on the way. So I'm going to start with my introduction uh, with for first the individual that started it all for all of us, Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef, the Black Dragon, the first African American to ever
Yes.
do martial arts cinema in Hong Kong, in a place where nobody knew us, didn't care about us. He went there and made it happen. And that's why we have a chance to do what we have today. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef, the Black Dragon.
Thank you.
And then following in his footsteps, following his footsteps in the early 90s, inspired by Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef, you have Sifu Robert Samuels, who is I think the first and only African American to be in the Hong Kong Stuntman Association, and that was certified by Sammo Hung, the real deal. So everybody here, guys, this is the real deal. All right. After that, when you come to the television realm, one of the first African American martial artists, and definitely the first father and son martial arts representation on television for a scripted, I guess you could call it almost reality martial arts show, WMAC Masters, Willie the Bam Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. And for the next generation, following into the footsteps from Justice for Hire, you got Jane Lucanis, a champion push hands competitor, as well as Tai Chi master. But he's a filmmaker, he's a producer, he does comics, he does animation, but he's also developing an app, which is going to be a new way to be able to receive content where everybody can be a hero. And he'll talk to you about that. But we've got Jan Lucanis, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
And then for now, we can't, this is a group effort. Now, we can't do any of this without the journalists, right? Now, the individual here today runs Fan Film Dojo. He's been pushing the genre for a long time within the community, keeping everybody alive and aware. Mr. Gary Williams, ladies and gentlemen, Film Fan Dojo. Appreciate everybody joining us today. We want to talk about the evolution of martial arts and cinema. We want to talk about representation. We want to talk about if things have actually changed. So to lead this conversation, Grandmaster, how was it going to a foreign land and becoming an icon? You know what I'm saying? You went over to someone else's land and starred in a film. You know what I'm saying? You go, you've got obviously Way of the Black Dragon, the Black Dragon, Super Weapon, so many films. I know obviously it's your martial arts prowess that obviously vouched for you skill-wise. But for those who don't know, give us a little bit of information about the journey, just going there and how you start in your first film. And some of the secret stuff that I know that went on, people trying to test you and see if you were the real deal.
Well, I was fortunate enough to be represented by Black Beauty Modeling Agency. And I got my first shot being represented by that agency. And they introduced me to Sarah from Carolexis. And 2 months later, I was on a plane on my way to Hong Kong. They had auditions in 4 or 5 states. Thousands of people turned out for it because the call was a Black martial artist. So you can imagine everybody in the world showed up. Have no idea why and how I was selected, but Next thing I knew, I was on my way to Hong Kong. But going to Hong Kong as a black man in the early 70s, 1973, it was quite strange in that first I didn't speak the language. And, the productions were quite different from what they are today. The whole crew was about 12 people. They did everything, lighting, sound, everything. Each person was able to do another person's job. In my first film, Tommy Lu Chun was the director, and he had been a star in hundreds of martial arts films. The first day at work, he said to me, "Do you know how to throw a sidekick?" So they were of the opinion that I knew nothing about martial arts when I got there. It was really a mind-opening experience for me because I thought I knew something about martial arts, but that really didn't help me in the business because choreography and camera angles and stunt stuff is quite different from real martial arts. When I first started, I was hitting stunt guys by accident, you know, and luckily I had people like Carter Wong and Alexander Fusheng, who was a very good friend of mine. We used to come on the set and we used to hang out. But my experiences in Hong Kong were amazing. I was challenged by stunt people. I was challenged by kung fu people. I was studying at the time with Grandmaster Leon Ting. Bruce had introduced me to Wing Chun in the 1960s. I met him in 1967 at the All-American Karate Championship, S. Henry Cho's tournament in New York. And I took second place. I lost to Joe Hayes, an amazing, amazing martial arts guy. And Bruce was there, and he came over to me and said, "You're the Black Dragon." But I was amazed because I lost. I lost to Joe Hayes. I lost in sudden death. So if anybody was supposed to get that accolade, it should have been Joe Hayes. But Bruce said, "You're the Black Dragon, man." He says, "It doesn't matter that you lost. You did it. You were out there. I saw your energy. I saw your spirit. I saw your chi." And that's how I met Bruce Lee.
Wow, that's incredible, incredible. Um, Robert, tell us, brother, your path to Asia and how you became the first uh, African American to be in the Hong Kong Stuntman Association, and how you were able to do several films with Sammo Hung.
Yeah, life altering experience, man. Thankful to my godfather Ron Van Cleef for giving me the image of an African American in Hong Kong doing movies. That helped me out tremendously to get to my goal. I knew that I could achieve it by seeing his image, Carl Scott. That allowed me to hold on to the dream. I got a job with U.S. Air because I knew that I couldn't afford to go back and forth to Hong Kong. And I knew you could fly for free. So that's where it all started. First year, I got a week's vacation. I went over there and touched base, met Chu Chi Ling from Kung Fu Hustle, toiled away for about 3 or 4 years, but nothing really materialized until I think when I met Sammo. When I met Sammo, everything changed. So I had an opportunity to join the Hong Kong Stuntmen's Association by doing a stunt in one of Sammo's movies. But truly a life-altering experience for me from West Philadelphia.
Excellent, excellent. He being humble right now. We'll get some more out of him. We're gonna get some more out of him soon. Okay, of course. Now, Professor Bam, tell us how. Well, first of all, Professor Bam was already a champion, just like Grandmaster was already a champion in the martial arts. Professor Bam was already a world champion in forms and so forth. So, talk about how you got the call and the opportunity to be a part of WMAC Masters.
Well, it's funny. After coming from China, because I had a chance to go to Beijing in 1985 with Master Brown. And I got a chance to work out with me in the Shaolin Temple Part 2, I think. So I got a chance to work with those guys and work on some forms and things like that. I knew if I could come back and just win a world championship, following the path of Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef, and Cynthia Rothrock and other people like that, I knew if I could become a world champion, I could get in the magazines and make a name for myself, and especially with doing forms of weapons, because I could fight. I don't want a lot of fighting stuff, but a lot of times when you don't think we can do good forms and weapons. So I made it my purpose when I come back from China, after really, being recognized as one of the best training at the Beijing Physical Culture Institute at that time. I came back. My first tournament, I beat the world champion, in forms, and that was like an honor. And from that point on, after I kept on winning with the assistance of Master Brown, because I was blessed that Master Brown also could sell the past to me. So wherever I went to a tournament, I had both of them on my sides, guiding me and showing me what to do and how to step my game up. And after winning, and then I think I made history. I became the Triple Crown champion. I was the first Kung Fu stars to be rated in fighting forms and weapons by NASCAR. And they had called me and wanted to put me on the front cover of a magazine. And I asked Richie Brandon, God bless his soul, my dear friend, Richie Brandon. I said, Richie, I need some. First of all, I keep it a bashi, but keep busy. So I said, Richie, can we get on the cover? And Richie, when we were doing the coverage shot, he said, man, at the Battle of Atlanta, they having a TV audition. They got everybody coming out and audition for this new TV show. So I said, okay, that's what martial artists did at that time. We shared and we tried to help each other, get an opportunity. I went to the Battle of Atlanta that year. I won the Battle of Atlanta, and they brought everybody in the room, and they told us all about this show. But I'm from Baltimore. For me, things don't really manifest. You put them out, just like you put your home on, they just die down. So they talked to us. We all signed this contract. It was really 50 people. It was 50 of the greatest martial arts champions at that time. Kevin Thompson, you name it. It was everybody, man. So I'm looking at all them people. How in the world I'm going to be on that? It wasn't me, African American. So I signed the contract and I went back home, man, and just didn't think that much about it. And then when they started asking us what you wanted your character to be and all this, well, my character was based upon Shaw Brothers. So I remember the Shaolin Temple, the guy with the ponytail. All this stuff. So since I was 6 years old, I already knew. So when they asked me, I said, no, this is my character. This is what I want to be. I had somebody drew it up from the street, some graffiti artist. He drew up the character. He did everything, the uniform, everything. And then they said, so what do you want your name to be? Well, I understood I wanted my name to be my name. I was the only character on the show that had his name. I said, so his name is going to be the Band, which is the name that Master Brown gave me. So I said, yes, the Band. So I was surprised they went for it. I made sure I still had legal rights to my name. And I sat back after that waiting, but I didn't think it was going to manifest. So I just kept on waiting, started, doing what I did to do. And before you know it, I got a call to come out there. And it was like a dream come true. I just think for me, it was just the aspiration of Master Ron Cleef and people like that set the image that we bring, to manifest. If it wasn't for images like that, I don't think I'd have ever had the courage to keep on pushing and going. And because of his image, and even when not knowing that it was time, I would write him letters when I was homeless and everything I did to him. He would write me back, even when we never got a chance to meet in person. He would write me back and say, "Keep pushing, brother." Put me in magazines and put me in some of his books when I never even met him about what I was doing. So you need to know it was his aspiration when I was lost. They got pushed on. So when WMC Masters came about, it was by his inspiration and Master Brown and also himself. Because if it wasn't for them showing me how to, put together a resume and walk around with a portfolio, I was always prepared for that opportunity to come. And they prepared me for that. So when I got that opportunity, I couldn't help it. Wherever I go, I always have my kids with me. So wherever I go, I always got kids with me. That's just how I roll it. I don't know. We were doing something, and I sent him a demo. My son doing the demo. I couldn't believe it. I said, hey, get him put this on the show. So that's how me and my son ended up getting on the show, man. You know, that was like a dream come true. So, and thank God for people like Master Ron Banks Lee. That dream would never can't manifest if he would have been an image like Master Bobby said on that screen for us. And said, thank you, sir. Thank you.
That's an incredible story. All right. So, Jan Lucanus, talk to us about first of all, talk to us a little bit about your martial arts prowess and what inspired you to get into filmmaking and to even trump that to get into actually creating a new platform for filmmaking itself. I think you gotta unmute. Let me find you. Do it again. And it's not coming through too well. Do you have a mic? No, we're not hearing. Does anyone else hear him? I don't hear you. So we'll come back to you. So you do some troubleshooting. So Gary, now I know you're a martial artist. So talk to us a little bit about your martial arts background and why you love the martial arts and martial arts cinema, and what inspired you to be able to, or to want to really push the genre in media.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say I'm honored to even be a guest included among these great masters. So I've trained in capoeira for the past 26 years. I've also trained in Wing Chun, Hung Gar, some ninjutsu, as well as Kempo karate. I was actually inspired by some of our panelists as a young man growing up in Detroit. The first martial arts movie I ever can remember seeing with a black man as the lead was The Tattoo Connection with the late Grandmaster Jim Kelly. And I would ask my mother, because I'd seen all the Shaw Brothers movies, or a lot of them, I should say. And I asked my mother, I couldn't believe it, that it was a black man. I never saw that. So my mother just looked at me and kind of laughed and said, boy, that's Jim Kelly. I said, oh, okay. And then on that same channel, maybe 2 weeks later, I saw Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef's movie, The Black Dragon. So when I saw those two individuals and they were somebody that looked like me, I really wanted to pursue martial arts. I thought I could do it, and I would always use them as inspiration when things got hard. And of course, you know, back in the days with the posters, I had posters of them on my wall. So that really inspired me, as well as it later when I started working at a video store. I would get movies, or they would get movies from Hong Kong. And that's when I saw Master Bobby Samuels. And then I'm like, wow, it's a black guy doing the Hong Kong action like in the 90s. And I was very excited. And I just really wanted to pursue my own personal journey in martial arts, but I wanted to contribute my way, and that would be writing about it, reviewing movies, talking about it. And the unfortunate deaths of both the great Lau Kar Leung and Grandmaster Jim Kelly in 2013 really spurred me forward to pursue doing a blog that turned into a website and a podcast, because I wanted everyone to know the personalities and the people behind the scenes and in front of the camera, because I believe this is the greatest genre of film in the world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Agreed. Okay, Jan, can we hear you now?
I hope so.
Like we can, for I tell you, for who,
oh my God.
What was that? Not 18 to who does? Can you hear me now? Who was that? Who's that? Verizon, baby. You must have just got some Verizon. We can hear you now. Okay, brother, tell us a little bit about your journey in the martial arts and what inspired you to do filmmaking, as well as to create this app that we'll have you talk about a little later.
Sure. But before I even start with that, thank you so much, Demetrius, for being so consistently supportive of not just myself, but of growing the martial arts worldwide. It's an honor to witness you as you help to uplift the global community. So and just being on here with all these legends is a huge deal. So I'm super grateful to all you guys and all the inspiration. So just thank you so much. And to start out with my journey in martial arts, it's really I grew up with both my parents, my mother and father, training in Kung Fu and Tai Chi. Actually, they started with karate, and then they moved to Kung Fu and Tai Chi. And just growing up in New York, in Chinatown, around all these, all their masters, their teachers, and their fellow students, it just put me in an ecosystem where I was constantly walking around thinking about martial arts. They would go to what was called the Pagoda Theater when I was a baby, and I would just sleep in the theater while they would watch, double and triple features of martial arts action films. So, just being able to see their favorite movies, their favorite actors, and have that just be a part of the fabric of my youth experience. And, simultaneously, my dad was a comic book critic and writer. So, I had both like the comic book side and the martial arts side growing up. So it definitely influenced just how I perceive the world. And, when I started really taking martial arts seriously as a teenager, it helped me to because I wasn't taking it really as seriously before 15. So it really helped me to make up for lost time. Even though I didn't get the flexibility that I wish I would have had if I was training very vigorously at 6, it helped me to elevate and fight Sancho semi-pro when I was a kid, when I was in college, and become the coach of the U.S. Tai Chi push hands team under Grandmaster William C.C. Chen, and get a bunch of golds there with our team and myself. And I was under Josh Waitskin, the chess champ for a lot of that, and taught me how to be a coach. So just taking all of that, the martial arts journey, and simultaneously loving movies and loving action film. Those two paths were happening at the same time. And one of the things that I learned from my push hands coach, Josh Waitskin, was that he was writing his book, The Art of Learning, at the same time that we were training for the 2004 Tai Chi World Cup in Taiwan. And he always talked about how his writing of the book influenced his training and how his training influenced the writing of the book. And it was just this amazing symbiotic relationship. And, coming from the comic book world and thinking in comics, but wanting to do film and knowing how visceral the martial arts experience is. So I'm like, man, these are 3 things that I feel like are my ecosystem. How do I get his experience of that book writing and training going into my ecosystem? How do I do that? And, all of that has led to, really where we are now. I've shot tons of martial arts action, and, have been very, very grateful for all the experience that's given me in understanding just the filmmaking process, because action is essentially the hardest thing to shoot. But, it's also showed me how looking at martial artists and saying there's all these amazing people that don't necessarily get to be in front of the camera in the traditional system. The traditional Hollywood system, or even the Hollywood system, essentially helped to lay the foundation for the global infrastructure of film and television. So if you look at it from that standpoint, you can't use the Hollywood model to make something new. You have to actually just go and make something new and do your best to be able to be of service to the legacies that were before you. So, we just looked at the filmmaking ecosystem differently and said, well, everyone's got a phone, and, we're in a world where people are spending more time on their phones now than they are watching any movie or show. So how do we take that and leverage that and allow people, especially martial artists, to perform in front of the camera as their own heroes in their own stories. And then how do you tie that together like a cinematic universe, which is based on the comic book model of thousands of characters interacting? How do you connect all of that together? So that's really what I've been working on with something called Justice for Hire and our company Real World, which is like a social filmmaking studio. So that's my little thing.
And it's incredible, and it's what we need, you know, whatever we can with, you know, each generation pushing forward. You know what I'm saying? We say each one teach one, right? And this is how we continue to go forward. So this is I want to start this panel off with talking about how things began. We first got our introduction to martial arts cinema in cinema, right? We had especially on 42nd Street, you had all of these cinemas showing these kung fu films, and that was our first representation of action that we can relate to, right? You know, on TV, I think you had westerns, but people that looked like us were always the bad guys, right? They were always trying to kill us. We were always the enemy, right? The Native American was the enemy, yet you was on our land anyway. We ain't gonna talk about that. We ain't gonna talk about that. But the point is this: the first representation of what we call the big screen or a influential martial or influential action came from martial arts films, right? We have the Shaw Brothers, but within that we had the Black Dragon. We had Way of the Black Dragon, right? We had Return of the Black Dragon. We had the Death of Bruce Lee. You know what I'm saying? So we had Grandmaster there representing to say, hey, you know what I'm saying? We doing this too, brother. You know what I'm saying? And because he's doing it, we knew that we can do it.
That's
you
right.
know what I mean? So we saw that type of cinema. It was like more of a cadence type, right? It was like ha 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 ha. You know what I'm saying? So you had more of like a specific pronounced cadence and fighting, and then it evolved from there. So Grandmaster, when you went over there, did you introduce your cadence, or did they give you the cadence? How did that happen when it came to choreography?
Well, you know, Betty White was my agent from Black Beauty Agency who got me the gig. I wanted to mention that. When I got there, they had their own cadence going already. So I just assimilated their form. It was interesting to be able to throw techniques the way they wanted me to versus how I was used to doing it. I was not very good at first in the choreography. I was missing shots. I was hitting stunt guys. I kicked my friend Jason Pipeau in the face one night. Spinning back kick in the face. He returned that with a hook kick in my face, which knocked me down in one of the scenes. Quite different. I learned so much from Jason Pipeau, from those
Question:
guys.
Did they use that in the movie when you got knocked down from the hook kick?
Yes, they did. They used that piece. Yeah, but they didn't show me go to the ground. They did see. We did see the heel hit me in my chest.
Impact.
With shoes on, not sneakers, shoes. Felt like my jaw was broken. Matter of fact, the next day I had trouble eating.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
and the stunt guys, I don't think they were very happy that a black man was over there starring in their films. You know, the stunt guys tried extra hard to look extra good when they were working with me. And they were not very patient. You know, they do the fight scenes, boom, 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 boom. Take one, take two, that's it. Next one, next one, next one, next one. I jumped down off a wall onto a bunch of cardboard boxes. I chipped the bone in my ankle. We were doing Death of Bruce Lee. I jumped off this wall, chipped the bone in my ankle. I walked around I hopped around Hong Kong for about 2 weeks on one foot. So for the rest of the movie, I didn't do any jumping. That scene I did in the garden with the Psy,
Yeah.
I could barely walk. But I did all the kicks, all the punches, and I was in serious pain. But they don't care. The director said, "Okay, let's go. Let's shoot the scene." They did not care. When Jason kicked me in the head, knocked me down, in less than 1 minute, I was up doing the same fight scene over and over and over and over. So it was a wonderful learning experience for me. I met Fusheng, a bunch of really, really nice guys. Wang Yu, I met a bunch of really, really nice guys that I looked up to. They were my heroes. Jason Pipiel, who became my student, right, was I was a fan of his. I loved his movies, you know. I met Angela Mao Ying when she was just starting in the business, you know. I met her on the set of Enter the Dragon. When about 3 or 4 years ago, I went to her restaurant in Queens. She said to me, "I remember you. You used to have hair. I met you on the set of Enter the Dragon. You used to have hair." Oh my goodness.
So
what a wonderful lady she is. So talented, you know, so very, very talented. There were so many talented martial artists and actors that I met in Hong Kong. Now, I was there 10 years and I enjoyed every bit of it. I nothing could beat that type of experience, you know? And I never really wanted to be a movie star. That was the last thing in my mind. I was a martial artist way before I started in the movies. You know, I got my first shot working on Kojak. I was a taxi driver on Kojak. I was a member of the East Coast Stuntmen's Association in 1967. Imagine my first job is driving a taxi on Kojak. So I met Charlie Savalas, his brother George. They treated me so nice. You know what I mean? It was a whole new world for me. You know, when I was a stuntman, I was a policeman in New York. I was a transit cop. In 1969, I got my break, and I said, you know what? I'm leaving the cops. I'm going to really concentrate on Kung Fu and karate.
And we're grateful that you did that. And your experience there now transfers to Robert Samuel. So now when you get to Hong Kong, what are their expectations of you? And give us some of the story of how you were able to star in these films and about the cadence of fighting and so forth, because now things are a little different. It's about 20 years later now.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's pretty similar to what Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef stated. They will test you. I'm a black man in Asia, and they created the particular fighting system and style of action choreography. So, you know, they think they're the best at it. But I did a lot of preliminary work by looking at my godfather on screen for many, many years, and I knew exactly the business that I was getting into. Taught myself how to speak Chinese because I wanted to make sure I had that other level that they could not deny. One day I was, and it's a funny thing when Grandmaster Van Cleef just recanted that story. First day on set of Mo Min Bay, Don't Give a Damn. I'll never forget it. We were in a warehouse, and it was a big scene with, it was supposed to be a fight scene, but we ended up turning it into guns because I stepped off one of the wood rafters and I twisted my ankle. And I mean, it was on fire to the point where I couldn't do any physical action. It swelled up like a balloon. I had a combat boot on, so I tied it up as tight as I could just to make it seem like I wasn't in any pain. But every foot that I took, I mean, I was in total agony. So Samuel was like, let's just change it to gun battle. So that's where you see me come out with the shotgun and start shooting everybody. I was in agony that whole time. And if you really pay attention, I was limping during that particular scene. And that was the first day of shooting for that film. So I understand exactly what Grandmaster is talking about. And it wasn't like, you know, let's take him to the hospital. It's like, let's go. We got business to do. So there was no quit. being a Hong Kong stuntman, that was a challenge, you know, because they didn't accept African Americans in organizations like that. But it was one day I was a big stunt that Samuel had created for Don't Give a Damn, where I had to run out of a burning building, dash across like 150 yards, leap over a 15-foot fence, hit an embankment, run into the middle of the street with moving traffic into the back of a truck, all in one take. So they started dressing up a Chinese stunt guy that looked like me, and I'm like, nah, I can do it. And every last one of them said, no, he can't do it. But I wanted to prove to them that I could. So there was a bet going on that I couldn't, and I said, I said, listen, if I can do this, will you allow me to be in the Hong Kong Stuntmen's Association? Because it took 4 signatures from Hong Kong action directors for you to join. That day, Yun Biao was there, Lau Ka Wing, Cho Wing, a bunch of other Hong Kong luminaries. So Samuel said, eBay, action. I ran out the burning building, ran across, hit the fence, landed, boom, right to the back of the car. You could hear crickets. I just went around and got my signatures. So I was very fortunate, but I was scared. It was kind of rough. But again, I just wanted to prove to him that, you know, we can do anything, African Americans.
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
yeah,
sir.
and the cadence was different. I mean, you're talking working here in the American film industry it's kind of easy, and Grandmaster can attest to that, because you're talking 16, 17-hour days. I'm talking shooting 2-3 movies back to back. I would leave Golden Harvest, not Golden Harvest. I would leave Samuel's company doing a film, and I would go in 10 days. That's right. That's right. 10 days. That's right. And I mean, the pace was it's so hectic. The choreo, 17, 18, 19, 20 beats at a time. And then you had to memorize it. You know, American style of action is a little different, you know. So when I came back here, it was a lot easier to make the transition. I knew here there was 12-hour days and that's it. You know, I'm like, I'm ready to keep going, but union rules and things of that nature. So, you know, that was the best education for me, working over there in the rough and tumble industry and bringing that knowledge back and working here.
Well, we're glad that you did it, brother. We're glad that you did it. All right, Master Bam. So now we're on television. So we done left the film industry. We're on television now. And now you're with a bunch of world-class martial artists, but it's more of a reality kind of thing. So talk to us about how you guys did those fight scenes and how you were able to do it and sell it. Because once again, it doesn't look like they cut it together like film.
Well, I think the beautiful thing about having Isaac, fortunate to have Isaac 14 and to be out there. Is that me? Okay. We were fortunate to have Isaac 14 and Pat Johnson, who were, I call my teachers of the film fighting, the TV fighting at that time. But a lot of what we did was based upon our own natural skills. I mean, I came up in the city of Baltimore flipping off the pissy mattresses, running up walls, you know, practicing martial arts on my own. So, you know, and then even when I went to China, and I really need to, you know, when you come up in the city, you don't have a structured system. If you want it, you got to figure out how you're going to get it. So when I went to China, and remember, I went to China with Wushu. The thing that changed the whole film industry was Wushu. Everybody keep forgetting it. It was the Wushu of Jet Li and all those people. So nobody wanted it, but me and Chuck Jeffries, who's one of my seniors, we were the first people that was doing butterfly twists that people call barrel rolls now. When I was flipping in competition, I was the only black kid that was doing back flip, front flip, run all this stuff, doing back flip after winning a form. But you know what I got? I got 4th place because they said you can't do that. But that was just what we did in the hood. We ran up. That's what we did. This stuff ain't new. That's you know, back in the 70s and the early, you know, that's what the kids did. So when I came with Master Brown and Osa Casal, Master Brown said, "Let me enhance your flipping with my own food." So when I went to China, now, you know, just imagine if you come from the hood, your mommy on welfare. You walk through the product, people being shot. We ain't talking no joke, we talking real deal. So coming from a tournament, going back to that streets of Baltimore, you gotta hope you can stay out there. So when I went to China and I'm saying, man, I want film. I gotta get in the film. So I'm sitting there watching the Beijing Wushu team run forms. I realized that they did 4 lines. I had to make up 4 lines. By the time the coach said, we're going to split you up in 2 groups, a beginner and intermediate group, I made up the whole routine. And this goes back to our creativity. I made up my whole form routine, got them to enhance that routine. And when I came back, that's what brought me to that whole level of being able to fit like that on WBC Masters. Nobody showed me how to do it. I already knew in my mind what I wanted to show. I wanted to show the representation of the hood. I'm not just saying that we flip, we kick, we got style, we got flow. I mean, we move to the beats. I mean, I call it a hip hop beat. You move into a beat. I mean, when Isaac said, look, Willie, I mean, I remember being on the cage, backflip, do it. I can do 100 backflips. I remember getting ready to walk off the set. I called Master Brown. He said, what are you doing? Didn't you ask for this? I said, but Dad, he said, go back in there. Keep going. But I went back in and I kept going. I mean, the challenge of being amongst them, you couldn't be like upset. You're dealing with the greatest martial artists on the planet. You can't be egotistical. You have to find a way to help each other out. And you don't think about that experience. There were really no extras. We were the ones in the ninja outfits. So when I'm talking about a humbling experience, everybody's willing to help everybody be good. I don't think we understood. Isaac still to this day, he said, you were here to your time. We were here to our times. People didn't understand that could have made the whole world martial arts. I mean, we had, at the end of the show, you had 1-800 numbers for kids to become masters. It was so, but I'm thinking, for me, just to be able to work and us to be able to figure it out, like Master Rob Van Cleef and Bobby said, I say, okay, yeah, we come in one day, you got to choreograph the fight scene in an hour, and then that's around about 6 o'clock. Go to the hotel, get some sleep, the car gonna come and get you. And at 12 o'clock, Universal Studios closed, we gonna start shooting. And I keep on telling people, they say one take. You ain't got time for no more takes, one take. If you stop on one take, somebody was going Joan on you. I told somebody, they like, how you gonna, we amongst real martial artists. And you got Isaac and Matt Johnson, 2 other legends. How you not gonna do it right? They gonna Joan on you, they gonna pick on you. So even to this day, I'm like, no, we got to get in there. Even though we're gonna take more than one take, I got to get it in one take. The second and third take, that's just the follow-up. I got to get it in one. But when you're amongst those great martial artists who want each other to look good and want to carry the issue on our shoulder, we couldn't afford to mess up. So for me, I think for me at that moment, I was too immature to understand what I had because I was just coming from a struggle of being incarcerated. So when I was put in that situation, I didn't think I deserved that situation. So I didn't really go out and really like, you know, I could have did a lot more, but I didn't think I appreciated it. So I never really shined like I should have. And then when I got off of that and Isaac talked to me, who's my dear friend now, like every day, he's like, nah, man, you don't do that. Don't feel like you don't deserve it. And I think we as a people, sometimes when you make a mistake like everybody else make a mistake, sometimes you live with that mistake and then you can't come back from that mistake. And it haunts you for your life. And you need to be around, especially even in the industry, they people like us to give confidence that I know I didn't have. So even when you look at my kids, for me to be on that step back from Hollywood, it was really so I can do what I'm doing right now. Allow my kids to have better opportunities than what I have, so I can be that support system for them. That one experience, man. I mean, that was like it goes back again. You guys set the pace. It's funny, Master Bobby. I be going through old Kung Fu, like, damn, that's Bobby's skills. I ain't never see that, man. Where did it go, bro? You know. Once again, it's those subliminal messages, like you're doing it, Master Demetrius. These subliminal messages, we don't realize they impact our lives as we go forward, and that's what the thing did for me. That's why I was able to do so. So because I realized all those things were in great spirit. I couldn't afford to mess up. I had to step up. And like Master Brown said, you better get back in there. I don't care what they do to you. They can break your back. Keep it up and go back in there and work. You asked for it, now do it, boy. And that's what I did. So that was a great experience for me.
But that's that that whole I should say that whole character that the martial arts brings, that never quit character, right? That the martial arts develops you to overcome adversity. You know what I'm saying? To be able to go and adapt to different situations. So now that brings us to Jan. So Jan, now you've got all these people that you were able to watch. You could see different styles. You had some, of course, you had your parents. Very fortunate to have your parents. But as far as representation on the screen, you had Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef, you had Robert Sims, you had Willie the Bam Johnson, and you saw a difference in styles and cadence and fighting techniques. So what inspired you to create your type of choreography, and how much did you take from these guys?
That's a great question. I'd say that my first style of choreography is really, I worked with a few choreographers when I was in high school, and they were from the USA Shaolin Temple, the like professional actors, etc. And there's a lot of people there under Xian Ming. It's a wonderful school. I got kicked out of the school. It's a totally different story. But I always send people there. I always tell people it's great. And I was really fortunate to be in the New York Film Academy's first high school program. And while I was in that program, I was at the Shaolin Temple. So I'm 17 years old, and my first experience of the film industry is people saying yes to me. So I'm with SNL cast members that are in my student film. You know, like I'm training next to John Leguizamo, you know, like getting all this encouragement. You know, like it's just it was a really interesting environment of having people who just cared about the martial arts, but some of them were, you know, everyday people, and other of them were happened to be celebrities, and I happened to be in, you know, training to be a filmmaker. So my early high school films were incorporating a lot of these people, and I was getting essentially a sense of how to work professionally from professionals, but on a student set. And when I found my first choreographer, who was a year older than me in high school, he was a huge fan of everybody on this panel, like a huge fan. And I remember him showing me Ron Van Cleef fights. I remember him talking about WMAC Masters. And I remember him, and I remember that from my own, but like he saw it differently than me. His name is Ian Morgan, and he was a really wonderful Muay Thai fighter as well. He is a great Muay Thai champion. But Ian really was entrenched in he would consistently reference the 1980s, what we would call ultra realistic Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Yuen Biao action choreography, and those beats, and would say, like, look at the pristine quality of the choreography, and now let's do it our way, because Ian was from the streets, and he was like, we have to do it hard hitting. Fighting is real, and this is how it goes in the streets. Let's take this choreography concept and bring it into our own gritty sense of action. And so it was really Ian, not me at all, that would show things that you know, and Ian would fight on the street on a regular basis. You know, he lives an action film in life himself. God bless him. But you know, I just remember looking at the choreography he'd bring to a particular scene, and realizing that I needed to step up from a directorial standpoint to say, this needs to be captured both artistically, but from a cinematography standpoint, but also with the ability to communicate to people who don't train in martial arts what the body mechanics of the action are. And so that's a long-winded way of me saying that my personal perspective on martial arts choreography and action filmmaking is something that articulates the body mechanics to people who may never have felt it before. And so when I've worked with other choreographers, we've really carried that. I personally carried that through. And you know, we did a film in 2014 for Justice for Hire. That was really the end of that chapter of, you know, Justice for Hire was like the most downloaded martial arts comic book series, and set a whole bunch of records in the digital download space. And so when when we shot our Kickstarter financed Justice for Hire film in 2014 that had like Ahmed Best from Star Wars in it, and played Jar Jar Binks, and like John Machado, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu master, and all these wonderful people, we had choreographers for each one of them. And, one choreographer, Mike Mukadis, he's like Captain America stunt double, Winter Soldier, stand-in, like great 8711 heritage over there from his team. And his style was completely different than Ian's style, my first style. I remember that stark difference of Mike choreographing for the drama while Ian's choreographing for the moment of the reality of what happens in his street fight. So Ian's in it here, Mike was in it, and Mike is amazing and brilliant, but Mike is in it to the screen perspective. And Ian was in it from the reality of hey, this happened to me yesterday. This is, and he'll talk about it, moment by moment to break it down very, very clearly, which translates into choreography. So it was amazing just being able to, and I was reminded of the Expendables, where each one of the actors, pretty much had their own choreographer. Jet Li had his team. When Jet Li's on screen, you see Jet Li's style of choreography. When so the other folks are on screen, each one of them has their own kind of style, the wrestling style, the traditional 1990s action style of the big hits. So it was just, I have a deep appreciation for all these styles. I'm consistently doing my best to refine my own. I'm still in that process. And so I feel, Demetrius, I feel like I only answered one of your questions.
That's fine. You answered it perfectly. I want to move on now to Gary. So Gary, obviously you've been following the genre for a long time. Give me some of your top films from each era when it comes to martial arts choreography.
Okay, that's a long list. Okay, from the 70s, I would have to say almost anything choreographed by Lau Kar Leung. Almost any movie. Also in the 70s, we have Sammo Hung with the Iron Fisted Monk. Of course, Warriors 2. Jackie Chan, Drunken Master, Snake in the Eagle Shadow. Almost anything with the Five Venom, the Venom Mob. I think they were they had a mixture of all of them, were very ahead of their time when I would watch them. From the 80s, to me, that's when Jackie Chan broke away from the Qing Dynasty type films. And it was Police Story. I mean, the mall scene in Police Story 1 is one of my favorite fight scenes to rewatch over and over again. Dragon Lord, which is still kind of Qing Dynasty era-esque, but to me, that signaled the beginning of Jackie doing more stunt fighting, jumping off of these things, these big stunt sets. Sammo Hung again in the 80s with the My Lucky Stars series of films. The 90s, Jet Li, Once Upon a Time in China. I liked the backdrop of that. And then I need to go back to the 80s because like Master Bam said, Shaolin Temple. That was kind of like a whole nother level of choreography. Seeing it as a fan, it was amazing because of the athleticism as well as the beats and the rhythm of the fighting.
I have to interject here because I just trained with Sifu Hu from the Shaolin Temple movie on Wednesday for my birthday. My first time going over there. He's amazing, and he actually he put on the Shaolin Temple movie and walked me through the last fight scene, that last big fight scene with the. He was telling me how each one, him, Jet Li, and the Sword Master in that fight scene were all the national champions at that time, and I was so blown away and so happy to hear, and it was I had a similar feeling that I got 2 years ago at the Urban Action Showcase on 42nd Street when Ron was on stage when we were doing the Black Dragon honoring, and Ron was on stage and you were talking about how you still compete, and I was like, man, that's so amazing. And then when Sifu Hu was talking about this Sword Master, and he's like, he's the older character in the film and he's moving so gracefully, and it's just such a testament to the longevity that's afforded to us as practitioners and anyone that gets to touch these amazing arts that are essentially available worldwide. And, you know, eventually I hope that the whole world is doing martial arts, because anyway, like, that's a tangent. Please keep going. I just want to say Sifu who's great.
All right, jump to 2000, 2010, because I want to get into representation quickly, because we only have 5 minutes left.
In the 2000 and 2000, there was, of course, some of the John Wick choreography. I really loved in Black Panther the scene when he and Killmonger are fighting on the waterfall, because they are using some different martial arts techniques that we aren't used to seeing. You know, some capoeira comes into play. Some capoeira comes into play. Some of the Zulu MP type of shield and spear work come into play. So I thought that was maybe another direction some choreography could eventually move into, but I thought that was great representation on that. Just so many moves. Donnie Yen, of course, with the flashpoints and Ip Man, and it's just so many, I think, modern times. And I'm looking forward to the day where we can see more African Americans and people of color represented as the protagonists in these fight scenes in these movies. Of course, what Master Bobby Samuels is doing with Shadow Fist that he just did, I loved. I think I watched that at least once every day.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
We wanted to go back to the old Shaw Brothers feel for that. So.
All right, we got 4 minutes left. I'm just gonna make this statement. I'm gonna let everybody comment on their own. Obviously, this is my statement, my observation. The 70s, right? African American was able to go to another land and star in a film. I have not seen that yet since then. I have not seen it in the 80s or the 90s or the 2000s. I don't know if they got mad at us, but I don't see those opportunities available anymore for people of color in Hong Kong, right? We just now got a African-American female doing a martial arts film with Gillian White and Take Back coming out in June. It's already released in Europe, but coming out in June. So my major question is, why haven't we progressed in representation? Now, I will say Melina in Mortal Kombat is African-American woman. I'm hoping that that's how she's portrayed. I don't know if she's portrayed as ambiguous, but you know, like just like Mariah Carey, we know you Black. So my point is, you know, I'm gonna tell on you. My point is, why has it taken so long for us to get to where we are? Finally, you're getting some leads in programming. You had Black Lightning, now they turn that off. Now we got Painkiller coming. So thank God for that. But still, the women are still far behind. Mm-hmm. And I feel our representation worldwide has taken a step back since Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef. So if anybody else can comment on that and take us out, we got 2 minutes.
You know, Bobby, we worked on a film with Marcos Miranda.
That's correct.
I think that's when I first met you, right?
That's right. That was 96, I think. Mm-hmm. That was the first film we did together. Yeah,
it was amazing.
It was.
You and just seeing you blossom on the set, man, it was great.
The first time when they kept telling me Ron Van Cleef is in this film, and I kept saying, where is he? You know, because it was your image that got me to Hong Kong, and you know, I did Hong Kong, I came back, now I'm here in America, you know, action coordinating my first American film. Where's he at? And then when you walked on set, I was damn near in tears, man, because like a person in the ghetto that watches movies, dreaming, and then it comes true, you know. So it's powerful. It's very powerful. You can't even put it into words.
When I was a teenager, my brother and we used to sneak on the train and go to Chinatown. We'd be the only people of color sitting in the pagoda or the Music Palace or any of those theaters in it, and we'd stay in there from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock at night. Really.
I think one thing that, I think is probably hit for me. I think I have produced more students that are out there in Hollywood doing stunt fighting throughout school. I think what's sad is that for whatever reason, they don't recognize, they don't want to carry on that legacy. I'll just put it out there. It's like you would rather change and say you come from a Korean school than to come from the school that taught you from you when you were 6 up to where you at now. I could look at, my son's at, what is it? The Falcon. And like, there go Mr. Daniel, one of my students. We looking at Soul Plane. There go Ryan, one of my students. There go my daughter, one of my students. There go one of my students. And I think for me, what I wanted to do was take pride and show that we can produce greatness. I don't have to, and this for me, and there's no disrespect, I don't want to show a Chinese culture. I want to show urban culture because I'm proud of my culture. As I said, that creative expression is something unique. It ain't just the drive of martial arts. That's the drive of our parents. That's the drive of our community. That's the drive of us as a people. So I want to show those stories. That's still stories that people haven't showed, that we can all have to overcome within our communities. And for me, and that's because of my instructors, Master Brown and Excel. Come on, people don't want to give them credit. If it wasn't for them, there would be no ranking system in Kung Fu if it wasn't for Dennis Brown. I don't know all that, man, but I understand the legacy that we have to carry on. But, and tell people, I don't know, it's like, why do we want to disassociate with what we bring to this industry? And that seems to be the problem. I'll use it for what I can do with Master Bobby, but once I get here, I didn't come from Bobby. I came from this guy over here. Because maybe it was better on my resume. That seems like one of the major problems.
I agree. We are out of time, but I want to thank all my distinguished guests, Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef, the Black Dragon, Seafood Robert Samuels, Willie the Bam Johnson, Jan Lucanus, Gary Williams. I want to thank all my guests, and we'll follow up on these conversations. We got a surprise coming in June. We got something called the June Jump Off. Back to Black Action Cinema from June 4th through 6th, and then the Kung Fu Mac Attack. That's the Kung Fu Martial Arts Action Cinema Megathon, June 18th through 20th. Gary and Film Fam Dojo are going to be partnering with us, and we'll let you guys know what we're going to be doing. We're going to have fan experiences. Let me give you real quick a special reveal. I promised that we were going to do this. I'm going to give you a special reveal right now. Give me 1 second. 1 second. A special reveal that I promised that we were going to do today. I have, as people know, I've been going into virtual reality with the Urban Action Showcase, and we have various rooms and platforms where you can actually go into and that you can be a part of. So I want to introduce you to our next fan experience while he's here with us right now. The one and the only Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef. I want to introduce you guys to what we call the Dragon's Den.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Oh,
The Dragon's Den, baby. The Dragon's Den. So here you'll be able to see. I'll just let me go through it real quick let me just run around in it just a little bit for y'all so you guys can see. So basically, as you can see, I can move within here. As you can see here, I can turn around, I can spin around. And Grandmaster, we're going to set up some fan experiences with you in here. So you can actually turn on your camera, right? You can click on camera and we'll be able to see you right inside the room. And you'll be able to talk to your fans in here. And if they go inside this room, they can find out about your new series here, the Tower of the Black Dragon, which is your new animated series.
Yep.
You guys can see right here. Okay, and then you can also find out more about the Black Dragon. But I wanted to reveal that.
That is awesome. Hey, John, I want to work with you.
Yeah.
John, I want you in my new book, Black Heroes of the Martial Arts 3.
I'd be honored. I'm not sure if you remember, we met back in 2005 at the Budo Hall of Fame.
I remember.
All right. Yeah, I love to collaborate with all you guys. And Demetrius, you know,
I'd like to work with you as well. I like your ideas. I definitely like to work with you.
All right, guys. I appreciate all of you. Thank you again. Please follow each and every one of these individuals on social media.
I love you. Bam, love
you. On Facebook, Instagram. You can find them on Twitter. You can find them on TikTok. Okay, but most of all, you can find them at the Urban Action Showcase. If you can't find them nowhere else, you're gonna find them at the Urban Action Showcase. All right, God bless you all. Thank you all for the time. Appreciation.
Love you, man. Thank you.
All right, love you guys.
Bless.